So I hope you can all see on your screen the article open. Climate change is an obvious myth. How much more evidence do you need? Okay, now the Toulmin method, because you have all listened to the lecture, so I'm sure you already know that the Toulmin method, in fact, is a tool to analyze an article which has been written on the basis of some arguments. So the Toulmin method as a tool helps us to analyze the arguments themselves in a given article. Now this article, climate change is an obvious myth. How much more evidence do you need? I think it is quite obvious that this article involves arguments. I'm sure you already know that we need arguments when we have an opinion which people can either agree with or disagree with. There are some issues which cannot be argued about. There are some settled facts. For example, we all have a name, okay? And that is a fact. We can't argue about a name that we carry, all right? But then there are some issues which are always arguable and which are always debatable. Climate change is an issue of that kind. Many people believe in climate change and many people do not believe in climate change. And this article is about climate change. Now, if you could open the worksheet for yourself. I'm not going to share it over here in the screen. I hope you all have that with you. If you could open it for yourself. I'll go over the questions over there and then tell you how to respond to those questions in light of this article. So okay, give me a second. I'm also opening the same sheet. Here it is. Okay, I opened it. Now, on the top, it says a Toulmin model for analyzing arguments. Okay. Now, for each article, students, for each article, there is supposed to be one claim, a major claim, a general claim that a writer makes. And then in rest of the article, the writer argues to support that claim. Now, the first heading over here in the worksheet is claim. Now, I'm assuming that you have read this article, okay? And you must read this article once before you start attempting the worksheet, before you start writing the answers of the questions in the worksheet. Now, if you have read the article, you probably can very quickly guess what is the major claim the writer is making. Any one of you would like to tell what is the claim the writer is making? So Shazeb is asking, is the claim like thesis statement? Yes, the claim is the thesis statement. Okay, the claim is the thesis statement. Now, I want you, any one of you, to respond to this question. What is the claim in this article? What claim or what thesis statement?
Climate change is a myth.
Very good. Now, in fact, this article is good in the sense that what you need to find out of it is very clearly stated. You don't have to do a lot of intellectual wrestling to understand what is what in this article. Things are too obviously stated in this article. So the thesis statement or the claim of the writer is stated right in the first line of the article. In fact, the claim is in the title of the article as well. Okay, and which is climate change is a myth. Now, of course, those who have read this article thoroughly and maybe have read it more than once, they might know that they might have noticed that the writer of this article does not really believe in what the writer is saying. Okay, but for the sake of the Toulmin analysis, that does not matter at all. We are not thinking of what the writer actually thinks or what the writer actually does not think. We are only focusing on what the writer has written over here. Okay, so the writer has written over here that climate change is a myth, and that is the claim. Similarly, the other articles that you read, you should be able to identify the claim that the writer makes in that particular article. All right. Now, let's see what is the second thing in the worksheet. Okay. Qualifier. Now, what do you think is the qualifier in this case? Okay. Now, before you attempt to answer this question, qualifier is a word which limits the scope of the claim. So in some cases, the writers use an expression like some, a few, all, majority of them, and words like that in order to impose some limit on the claim so that people should not be able to challenge their claim. All these words which put that kind of limit, they are called qualifiers. So what do you think is a qualifier in this claim that the writer has made? Any responses? Okay, so Shazib is saying many, most, somewhere. Where are these words used? Tell me the sentence. Okay. Now, students, when you are using the Toulmin method as a tool to analyze a particular article, you must remember that you may not find all those things which the Toulmin method tells us about. It is possible for a writer to write an article in such a manner that the writer does not impose a limit on the claim. And that is what you need to notice. And if you notice that, or if you identify that, you should point that out as a weakness in the general claim that the writer is making. Probably none of us can tell right away how we can rewrite this claim, climate change is a myth. But probably there should be some ways to put a limit on this claim, because the claim is too generalized and it is too broad. For example, uh, this sentence or this claim, climate change is a myth, uh, could be rewritten in some other ways. For example, the writer might say that the idea of global warming in climate change is a myth. If the writer says that, that means the writer is not denying climate change in its totality. Rather, the writer is denying just one element in the climate change factor, which is the rising temperatures. But as the writer has done over here, he has made this claim too general, too broad to be true. And one can easily challenge this kind of claim. Okay. In fact, you will notice when you read through the article under it that the writer has to take care of so many things in order to maintain this claim. The writer has to refer to the sea levels, then he has to refer to food crisis, then he has to refer to mass extinctions, and then he has to refer to the extreme weathers, and he has to refer to all those things because the claim the writer has made is too broad. And it is very hard to maintain that kind of claim. So when you are using the Toulmin method as a tool for analysis, it's not that you have that every article you read must have all those things in the article. In fact, the purpose of learning the Toulmin method and the purpose of equipping ourselves with the Toulmin method tool is precisely this, to be able to notice the quality of the argument which has been made in a given article. So you might find a claim, you might not find a claim. And if you don't find a claim, you should point that out, and you should point that out as a weakness of that particular article, that article does not have a claim at all, or does not have a clear claim at all. In this case, the claim is clear. It is very clear, but the claim is too broad. All right. So in the front of qualifier, you might say in the worksheet, no qualifier has been mentioned for the claim made or for the claim. I'm going back to the worksheet. And then exceptions. Does the writer make any exceptions? I don't think so. The writer does not make any exception. The writer doesn't want to say that, well, most of the climate change is a myth except this and this thing. Okay. The writer could do that. The writer could say something like, climate change appears to be a myth except the factor of rising sea levels. Okay. Or except the factor of rising sea levels and rising temperatures. But as the article appears to us, it does not have a qualifier and it does not have an exception over